afternoon, everyone. Patricia's filling in for me today. I'm actually in downtown Vancouver on Robson Street with Jeff Leggett and Sonia here, and I got MP Bonita Zarello standing right beside me.
Hello, everyone.
And we're just doing the kickoff here of the launch, the Western Canada launch, Disability Awareness to End Legislated Poverty for Canadians. It is wonderful, and we're bringing on the awareness and talking to people about basic income going forward too. That would be the long-term solution. Just wanted to give you my little intro, and now Patricia, this is the show, and continue on. Bonita dropped in here, so this is awesome too. So we're accomplishing two things at the same thing for everybody.
Thanks so much, and hi, Zarello. It's cool to know that you're there.
Hang on. She's coming right now for you.
Hello. Hi, Ms. Zarello. I just wanted to say hi, and thanks for doing your work out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're here with Scott Santens, who's a huge advocate for basic income, universal basic income. He's a writer of basic income, and so we're just about to start off interviewing him here on Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies.
That sounds so great. I'm happy to hear it.
Anyways, thanks for doing all the work that you do.
Absolutely, and I wouldn't mind connecting at another time too, just to talk about C-22 and how C-22, if we can get language into that bill around a minimum standard, then we could talk about UBI after that. Great work. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I'll be hanging around here.
Cool. All right. Take care.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Santens, let's get started. I think it would be really great just to start off with your vision. I would like very much for you to just give us, the $5 version of what it is your vision is in terms of, you've been working on basic income since 2013, correct?
That is correct.
And so why don't you tell us in brief what the Scott Santens version is of basic income. We know that you live in the United States. We know that the United States is an MMT economy, and so we have a general idea that the two different economies aren't necessarily, they're not the same, but it's still a workable program, and so we'd like to know how it works in brief, if you don't mind just giving us an idea.
Yeah, so I think of basic income as like a missing foundation for society, for civilization, where like we've constructed civilization on top of foundationless ground, and we like wonder why stuff is falling apart on top of it. And it's that we built all these things, and these things can be necessary things, like, for example, universal healthcare. It's a necessary thing. But as long as it doesn't exist on top of a foundation where poverty is eliminated, it should be like one of our goals, that as long as we don't eliminate poverty, then we're actually treating downstream a lot of the impacts of poverty. And as another result of this, so many people in conditional safety nets are falling right through them. So many people are ignored by systems that are full of holes, instead of having this unconditional right to an amount of money to lift people out of poverty. And so like my vision, I just think of this as like this floor that we need to construct underneath all of us. And that floor should actually rise over time, I think in line with national productivity growth, so that as the economy becomes more and more productive, as say technology improves, automation increases, as we get better and better at doing and accomplishing what we need and want to accomplish with less and less effort, then we should see like a dividend from that that we all equally share in, and so that we continually are better and better off over time, such that we like make the economy work for all of us, make technology work for all of us, make our collective wealth work for all of us. So that's what I see as a vision forward, is that we really want to get into like decades down the road. I'm thinking that, a society that has kind of decoupled itself from working to survive and trying to get money to survive is actually more able to think about the bigger questions, think more long term, think about what it is that we want to achieve, and unlock people's potential, enable more people to actually pursue what they feel is what they're most passionate about pursuing. And I think if we did that, then all of us would be better off. It would be a lot more kind of a Star Trek kind of place eventually, instead of the kind of Hunger Games kind of setup that we've got going right now.
I love that analogy, that concept of Star Trek kind of place, because tons of people here, you would not believe the kinds of emojis I see running through this group. We exchange the live long and prosper emoji throughout this group so often. It's kind of one of our go-tos. It's great. And we see it all the time from Star Trek 4 onwards. They talk example, like in Star Trek 4, when they go back, I guess people here maybe know the analogy, but anyways, in Star Trek 4 Voyage Home, they have to go back. For those of us here who don't know it, they have to do in the Voyage Home, they time travel back to the 20th century, and they say because they're going to repopulate the species with humpback whales, and they say, Kirk says, "Oh, they're still using money. We have to find some." Because money is sort of it's an eliminated concept. And so this theory that money has no value, I read your essay, and you speak about how money it's not real.
Yeah.
It's something which doesn't really exist. Do you think you could elaborate on that for us, please?
Yeah. I like the analogy to this will go from Star Trek to South Park. There's an episode of South Park that I really like that's called Pinewood Derby, and it's when this alien in a UFO lands on Earth, and he's trying to escape from the space cops, and he's got a ship full of space bucks, and he ends up getting killed, and suddenly the Earth has this spaceship full of space bucks, and so they figure that all the countries will split this bounty of space bucks, and so suddenly the Earth feels richer, and so all these countries start building all these new things, and so the joke is what they build. So I think it's Mexico builds a bunch of water parks. And I think that's hilarious on its face, but also it's very instructive, where did the Earth as a whole, did the Earth suddenly get more resources? Did it get more knowledge and greater technology? Was it capable of producing anything more? Well, no, it just felt richer because it had something called space bucks, and so it went and built a lot more stuff. I think that's a good analogy. That's even the opposite of what happened in the Great Depression, where in the Great Depression, we suddenly were poorer, and we didn't build as much stuff. We people were poor and they're out of jobs. And why did that happen? Did they have less resources and people and knowledge and stuff? Well, no, it was just kind of this anomaly that came out of this thing called money, where there just seemed to be less of it, and the effect on society was that we didn't do as much stuff, even though we of course could have been continuing to do just as everything that we were before. So using both of those kind of analogies, I think it helps people understand that money is this tool, inches or points. We come up with points to score baseball games and stuff, but it's not like there's some limited number of points. Like we just create them and use them, and that's that. There's no kind of point scarcity. There's no inch scarcity. So there's no money scarcity either. It's just this construct that we use, and it's useful. It's kind of like a very rough approximation of like resources and capacity, so that we can kind of get an idea of what we're capable of via like exchanges and production, and what the demand is from people. So if we can kind of like in a decentralized way kind of figure out how much, say, bread to produce based on the demand that people are expressing via their purchases in grocery stores of bread. Money's been around for so long that it's like we think of it as like this real thing that like somehow has some like physical counterpart. Whereas if we, you can even hear it in the way people talk about stuff, where is there the money to do this, or they had enough money to do this, and it's not about that. What really matters is total resources. It matters is capacity, the capacity to use those resources. So it matters as people, technology, these kinds of physical, actual constraints. And money is just this useful tool to kind of figure those things out to best use. And that's just how it is. We don't want to think that, say, it's not about saying, oh, we can just create a bunch of money and then do everything we want to. It's just about saying that money is not the limit. And so, if we can create more money, it's just if we want to say like there's going to be impacts on inflation if we create more money, depending on supply constraints. And so, we'd want to focus on, all right, well, what is it we want to build? What are the goods and services that we want? How do we best achieve those goods and services by investing in those things? Let's say if we, want more medical service or something, via more doctors, it's not about just creating more money and like having more money. It's saying, all right, well, if we want more doctors, then, let's have educational programs that lead to that. Let's have policies that encourage people to be doctors. Let's doctors is a good example of something kind of artificial scarcity, where we say, we can't have too many doctors. We've got to limit the amount of doctors. So we're creating this limit artificially, and we see that in a lot of different places. So yeah, just the important thing to focus on is actual physical capacity, and money is this tool. And don't be confused by thinking that money is like some real thing that stops us. It's the physical capacity we can do, and even our own will to do things with what we have.
Okay, so I'd like to explore that with you a little bit, because you're talking about how money is exactly what you say. It's this artificial sort of, it's just that. It is essentially what we decide it is. And you talk in your essay about how there is, with the modern monetary theory, you say that there is this exactly like a money tree, essentially, which I like that analogy. So I just want to dig into this concept, because one of the main differences between an MMT economy and a conventional economy is how taxes are used. And when you're talking about taxes, you talk about how you use this bathtub analogy, and the drain equals taxes, and taxes drain money from the economy, keeping inflation in check. Okay, that's fine. That's one thing. Where's this disconnect? Instead of using taxes to drain inflation, why not use taxes specifically? Because you can call money a nothing, or you can use it to assign value.